Hi, this is Nicholas Bell with IONCINEMA, here to review Stage Mother, the latest film directed by Thom Fitzgerald, which will premiere on digital on demand August 21st, 2020, courtesy of Momentum Pictures, also some theaters. It premiered at the 2020 Palm Springs International Film Festival, and it stars Jacki Weaver in a phenomenal lead performance as Maybelline, the Texas choir director who learns suddenly that her estranged son, who's gay and a drag queen in San Francisco, has died of an overdose. She argues with her husband Jeb, who, he wrote off his son decades ago, doesn't want her to go to the funeral. She insists. She's a little disturbed at the funeral itself, which is kind of a non-traditional ceremony led by Jacki Beats playing her son Ricky's drag mother named Dusty Muffin. There's the song and dance performance. She leaves and later that night seeks out her son's dead partner, or her son's partner Nathan, played by Adrian Grenier, who wants nothing to do with her, is very hostile to her, saying that he never married her son because he was waiting for his mother to come around so that she could be involved in the wedding. So of course his name is not on the lease in the apartment, so he's gonna have to move out of that. And also the bar that Ricky owned, Pandora's Box, it's now owned by his mother. So she decides to stay and revamp the bar, which has kind of been failing. She takes the trio, Dusty Muffin quits, so she takes the trio of other performers and basically crafts a cabaret song. Because she's a choir director back home, she kind of does the same thing, writes an original musical, goes out trying to market her new piece that she's created, and she ends up having kind of a romantic entanglement with a concierge at a nearby hotel. Of course, Jeb comes crawling back because she hasn't returned any of his calls after several weeks and demands that she come home. And she says she'll agree to do it if only they sign the bar over to Nathan, who she also helps with rent money. At the same time, there's Lucy Liu playing Sienna, the best friend of her son Ricky, and she kind of crashes on her couch and watches Lucy Liu's baby. And then basically just becomes this very warm, empathetic mother figure to all these people, which is born somewhat out of guilt because she wasn't there in that way for her son. It culminates in a really beautifully staged sequence that's a tribute to her son, that I don't even really want to say anything more. It's just I think worth it to experience. There's a nostalgic factor to Fitzgerald's film that is like, it's reminiscent of the way a lot of stories were presented in queer cinema in the late 90s and early 2000s, but and while arguably that gives it a kind of dated feel, it also makes it evident that these stories, which are still happening within our community, still need to be told. There aren't a lot of rough edges. It's just a very smooth, efficiently told story with some pretty decent characterizations, especially Jacki Weaver. And it's so rare that we get to see her in a lead role that you just kind of drink her up. For as much as she was a scene stealer in something like Palms, which is arguably, to some a throwaway film, like this has a lot more substance and subtext, I think, to really dig into. And it's a nice return for Fitzgerald, who had a lot of queer indie films that got a lot of attention in the early 2000s, like The Event and Cloudburst, both with Olympia Dukakis, or Three Needles, which also had Lucy Liu and Olympia Dukakis in it. And the end of this the end of The Event is Olympia Dukakis' voicemail on her dead son's answering machine, and it is a very similar kind of dynamic that is just very beautifully and eloquently done for Stage Mother, it's set mostly in San Francisco, but was surprisingly filmed in Nova Scotia. That considered, it looks great. Overall, I would give the film 3 out of 5 stars. Thank you.
Hey, this is Eric from IONCINEMA.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.